This morning, the coronavirus is changing the way that candidates campaign. No more handshaking or cozy fundraisers. We'll look at the effects the virus could have on the November election. Governor Greg Abbott warned of the coronavirus long before President Trump. So is Texas any better positioned because of it? Two state lawmakers in studio. Austin, Houston, now Dallas have all declared disasters because of the disease.
I have filed this evening a declaration of local disaster.
But the state's biggest school districts likely will not close if the virus is detected on campuses. Dallas's superintendent in studio to explain what else is at risk. And the disgraced outgoing Speaker of the Texas House, Dennis Bonnen, has broken his silence.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
And good morning. Before we get into the politics and public health, let's first get you caught up on the political headlines we are watching across the state. The disgraced outgoing Speaker of the Texas House, Dennis Bonnen, has broken his silence. Bonnen said he did a, quote, horrible job. Remember, the Republican from Brazoria County was caught on tape last year making fun of his House colleagues and offering press credentials to the House floor for political support. Well, Bonnen said he did a horrible job to a Lubbock radio station. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz has closed his Washington, D.C. office. The senator made the decision after a staffer from another Senate office tested positive for the coronavirus. Cruz said he feels healthy and just finished self-quarantine at his Houston home after a brief interaction with someone who tested positive for the coronavirus. And Dallas County had to adjust its Super Tuesday election results. The elections administrator found more than 9,000 votes that were not originally counted. 6,000 to Democrats, 3,000 to Republicans. These new votes added to the totals but did not change the winners of any races. Now to the issue affecting everyone's daily life in some way. Politics is driving the public health response to the coronavirus. Texas seems to be a little ahead of the curve when it comes to testing centers, but test kits remain kind of rare. In studio to discuss the political response to this is State Senator Nathan Johnson, a Dallas Democrat who sits on the Texas Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, and also State Representative Stephanie Click. She is a Fort Worth Republican and a veteran nurse as well. Hope you don't mind me using the word veteran. And then joining us, as always, is Bud Kennedy from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, considering what all is going on here. Let's start with the test kits. We've heard so many viewers asking about that. Why are the test kits so hard to come by? We'll start with you, Nathan.
The fact is our demand for testing right now is not exceeding our supply of test kits. We'd like to have more just because you like to have a stockpile, but we do not have a crisis right now in test kits. It's actually a public misperception. We have test kits in 10 different centers around the state, and we also have tests coming online on a commercial capacity right now.
The governor announced on Friday, though, that there will be some drive-up testing in San Antonio, and then perhaps as soon as this week in other large cities like Dallas. When testing becomes easier, Stephanie, do you expect the number of cases to increase?
I do.
What should the public take away from that? Because that's going to be some pretty big headlines.
Well, I think people also need to know that just testing is not the panacea that they think that it is. You want somebody to be symptomatic before they're actually tested, because you're going to get false negatives, which is why there is criteria as to who, is the first line to get those tests.
Okay.
A lot of people are home watching this morning because they're not in church, so and some of them don't understand why. They say this is all a hoax or a plot, and it's really in a lot of ways about senior citizens, and that senior citizens are the most vulnerable. But put in your words of why they're home, why everything's called off.
Well, first off, someone younger and healthier can spread this virus to someone who is more vulnerable. And it's not just senior citizens. You can have people that are immunocompromised. You can have a younger individual that's undergoing chemotherapy for cancer.
People with breathing problems.
Absolutely, cardiac
and so we're all
hypertension.
Terribly inconvenienced by this, and it was certainly tempting early before we got enough information to say, this is silly, it's just a cold. But I think most people at this point realize that this is a very serious situation. Not everybody is particularly in danger of this virus, but the older population is. And I was at breakfast, and a waitress today said, I'm fine, but this is coming from my dad. He's 77, so I told him he's grounded. And she's taking care of him, and he accepts him. She's getting his groceries. And I think that's an example of being conscientious and respectful of other people is something we all need to do.
Is enough word getting out in Parker County? Is a little information. Hood County, they didn't dismiss school because they said they're a low-risk county. Is that true?
At this point, we don't know. They have not had any reported cases. That much we do know. You know, Texas is a big state.
Yeah.
There may be areas that are not going to be touched by this.
And Parker and Hood counties, of course, are just to the west of Fort Worth and the Metroplex up here. But let's talk about the grocery stores. You brought that up. Panic and preparation are the two different keys here, and we have seen runs on toilet paper. Why are people going after toilet paper, and what would you tell them, Senator?
Yeah, I would tell them that you're actually making things worse. There is no need to stock up on supplies right now. There's nowhere on the planet, despite all the problems that are associated with COVID-19, that it's interrupting supply chains. Nobody is going to quarantine you to your house and force you to starve to death. You can still get your groceries. In fact, you've got friends that'll bring them to you. Do not stock up. That's just making things more inconvenient for everybody.
And Representative Click, we've heard from a lot of people, and we see all over our social media channels too, how frustrated the people is. They hear one thing that, like the Senator said, oh, this is just like a cold, I don't need to be concerned. They're hearing a lot of different messages out there. Are you hearing that too from constituents, frustrated public?
I am, but this is a relatively new virus. We are learning things about it every single day. And therefore, some of the advisories that are coming out to the public may change from day to day. It's a very fluid situation.
What are some of the things out there that you know that people should not believe, some of the things on social media?
Well, I would say that they really need to go to a credible source. There are a lot of sources that are opining as to what people need to do, and if there's not a bona fide scientific basis, government basis, or advisory, I would probably look a little further.
Senator, how would you rate the state's public health response to this?
Right now, I'm actually pretty impressed at the level of effort that is being put into this. I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be in terms of our testing capacity. We are soon going to need very large-scale testing. We don't have it, but the local health authority, I mean, most of health is done at the local level. Mm-hmm. The state is essentially a nerve center to make sure that local health authorities have the resources that they need to take care of people. And those kind of communications between the State Department of Health Services, the Texas Emergency Management Department, the governor's office, the legislative representatives, is very active every single day, multiple times a day, making sure that we do as well as we can. We are going to have to scale it up, however.
Are there any precautions out there, a question for both of you, are there any precautions out there that should be taken that are not being taken?
Precautions right now, no. I mean, as a policy matter, I wish we'd done some things before.
Like what?
I wish we didn't have such a large uninsured population. We have 5 million uninsured in Texas. Yeah. We could have picked up 1.5 million of it with a Medicaid expansion. I know that's a very, it's a contentious point. And
politicized point.
Yeah, it is politicized. I'm glad we used the word politicized. I don't say this in a political context. I think it's a matter of policy. Uninsured people are harder to track, and tracking is part of containing the contagion. So I regret that we're not able to cover more people.
Same question for you, Representative.
You know, I think our response has been great. One of the things that we did a number of years ago, we had Ebola in Dallas. And after that happened, I put in place legislation that we've got an infectious disease task force that is a permanent structure within the state so that we could prepare for the next.
For these situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for that legislation as well, too. Nathan Johnson and Stephanie Click, thanks for coming in to discuss this. I know we'll be, picking on your brains in the future as we go through this. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
We saw this image on Instagram the other day. That's Congressman Michael Burgess from Denton County doing a telephone town hall. The coronavirus is changing the way candidates reach voters right now. No more handshaking and kissing babies. No one wants to get sick. Presidential candidates have canceled large rallies, and lots of campaigns have cut back on fundraisers, which is often close contact and handshaking. So how will the coronavirus affect 2020? Abby Livingston is with us again this week. She is the Washington, D.C. bureau chief for the Texas Tribune. Good morning to you, Abby.
Good morning.
You had a story a couple days ago about how candidates and campaigns are adjusting to all of this, since it could last for a while, a couple of months maybe. Could this really affect, do you think, the outcomes of any races come November?
Absolutely. It depends on how long this lasts, but it's important to remember that we are still in primary campaign mode. The runoffs are in May, and everything about campaigning for a candidate involves personal contact, door knocking, fundraising parties, selfies, handshaking. And I spoke to a former congressional candidate down in Houston, Dr. Jason Weston, who works at MD Anderson, and he said that behavior is nothing short of dangerous. And he strongly encouraged all candidates to switch to online campaigning, live streams, texting, phone banking, rather than the direct contact with voters.
Wow, online campaigning. You bring up a good point, too. Half of the Texas delegation in Congress is at the at-risk age.
Absolutely. I mean, think about this. On Monday night, every section of this country sent a representative to the United States Capitol. 534 members. They all got together in the Senate chamber and in the House chamber, along with thousands of tourists. And it was just an absolutely incredible scene to me. There really wasn't, everyone had hand sanitizer, but there didn't seem to be a lot of awareness. But once Dr. Anthony Fauci testified on Wednesday before the House Oversight Committee, everything seemed to change with the tone in the room, and people started to take this much more seriously. But there are a lot of elderly people serving in Congress.
Wow. Art, I'll be back to you in a moment. Thank you. And President Trump called the coronavirus a Democratic hoax. How much valuable time did that waste? Two sides in Flashpoint debate it when we come back. You're watching Inside Texas Politics. Coronavirus coverage consumes every newscast, but there's a lot of other political happenings underway, some of which we dive into in our political podcast called Y'all-itics. Old voting machines are coming out of retirement. Harris County just bought 2,000 e-slate machines from Travis County that it no longer uses. Houston said these extra voting booths should eliminate long lines in November, but how about phasing out runoff elections, which are not only expensive but can lead to voter fatigue? Well, there's an idea out there that other states are using. Some lawmakers say it's time that Texas consider that too. So if your phone is handy right now, turn on the camera and point it right here at the screen. Your camera can read this QR code and take you directly to the latest episode of Y'all-itics. The coronavirus has caused some of the largest counties in Texas to already declare local disasters. Harris, Montgomery, Fort Bend, Travis, and most recently Dallas took this step. It lets them limit the size of public events for concerts, for pro sports, and other things. But schools present another situation, and that's a question that Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins responded to.
The schools are on top of this. They've been working with us from day one, both the public schools and the private schools. And they're in constant communication with health officials, with us and state health officials, and they're doing everything they can to keep your kids safe. You should follow what the school tells you about your children. You should not take your children out of school or take actions on yourself. If you have questions specific to your child and your school, you should contact your school.
And so we are contacting one of the big school districts this morning, the largest in the state, one of the largest in the state rather, Dallas ISD. The superintendent, Dr. Michael Hinojosa, is in studio with us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Dr. Hinojosa, I've seen that many of the state's largest school districts say they are not going to entirely close down if coronavirus is detected at campuses. Why not?
Well, we'll take it case by case, and we'll follow the direction of the county health department. If it's 2 or 3 campuses, we have a lot of people depending on us, and so we're going to look at what the actual data tells us, and if it becomes more widespread, then we'll make a decision about the district.
And you guys have talked about in the past few days about the number of students who rely on the lunches and the breakfasts at campuses. How important is that? And let's say if campus is closed, how would those students eat?
Well, it's very significant. For our ACE campuses, they get 3 square meals a day. Those are our most challenging schools. And all of the other campuses have 2 meals, and we feed everybody. And so if they don't have any food, this is where they get their food. A lot of people don't know that on weekends we send backpacks home for some of our families that don't have food on the weekend. But federal requirements don't allow us to deliver them. So the students and the families would have to come to a campus to pick up the food for those few days that they're needed.
So they would, let's say the school is closed. Is that what would happen for these families that rely on that food?
Yes, we have certain sites, and if it got widespread, we'd probably go to every site where the families could come pick up the food.
Dallas ISD dealt with Ebola in 2014. What did the district learn during all of that it's specifically using right now?
Well, we just dusted off that plan.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was not the superintendent at the time, but our team responded very quickly and very well, and it was very close to us because a parent of one of our students was involved in that situation. So we just dusted off the plan, updated it. This is different, so we modified it, and the Sherry Christian is our person who was responsible at that time. She's still here, and she's running the show for us. So it was very helpful to have been through that. Of course, recently we had the tornado, so we didn't get the plan for that one. At least we got the plan for this one.
So is Dallas ISD using the Ebola plan and listening to what the state and CDC are saying? Is that what's happening?
No doubt about it. We're in close communication with the Texas Education Agency, the CDC, and Dallas County. So with those three entities and the UIL, we have a team at the basketball state tournament, and they won the semis, but they couldn't go to the championship. So we depend on other governments as we're making our decisions.
Dr. Hinojosa, a lot of school districts, including Austin, Houston, Dallas ISD, they're starting spring break this week. The big question is, will Dallas extend that spring break? And that's something you're going to decide as late as Thursday?
As late as Thursday. If we know earlier, we'll make a decision earlier. My first decision point is Tuesday. By Thursday, we'll announce what we're going to do. But we want to see, because right now you don't know. Things really escalated in the last few days, but it could stabilize or it might get better. So we have the luxury of time because we happen to be out on spring break this week.
So what happens? What goes into that decision?
Well, we'll take all the pertinent information, and I'll definitely talk to the mayor, and I'll talk to the county judge, and then I'll decide what we have to ultimately do, communicate with our school board.
How concerned are you about this entire coronavirus?
I've been through this a lot of times. I've been 25 years superintendent, so I have the luxury of experience. I know this is an issue, but I don't think people need to panic. I think we let it play out. We will make the decisions that we need to make when we need to make them, but I think we just need to remain calm and take it day by day, actually hour by hour as we get new information.
And that is the way this is unfolding. Dr. Michael Hinojosa, the superintendent at Dallas ISD, thanks for being in studio.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see, just a couple of weeks ago, President Trump called the coronavirus a Democratic hoax. At issue this morning is how much valuable time did that waste? Well, the question sparked debate in Flashpoint this morning. From the right, Wade Emmert, the former chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party, and from the left is LULAC's national president, Domingo Garcia.
Thank you, Jason. And on this Sunday morning, where corona is no longer just a beer, but evidently a virus, and that is the talk of the town, it is interesting to find out that the President of the United States for the last several months said it was a hoax, said it was fake news, said it was definitely just like the common flu. And now we've found out the stock markets are crashing, and it's a serious thing. And why did the president, even Ted Cruz, quarantined himself when he had been exposed to the coronavirus? Why didn't the president take it more serious earlier and put more Americans at risk?
So I'm glad you've finally come around to the fact that the virus is not just an adult beverage. So that's we're making progress. Look, the president did do some things early on in the process that I think helped contain the virus. The reality is the government is never going to be the best response to this type of pandemic. You know, the 9 most terrifying words were, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. The reality is Americans need to do their part in washing their hands, staying at home if they're sick, don't cough on people. These are things everybody should be doing anyway, and the government can't save people from their lack of hygiene.
My concern is the president politicizing the virus.
The president, the Democrats
building a wall
have
is not going to stop the virus.
The Democrats have been politicizing
attacking
this.
Democrats is not going to attack. This does the virus.
Oh, but
does
attacking
not
Trump will.
No, on the contrary.
I agree.
I want Trump to be presidential. I hope he doesn't have the virus. I hope he's able to lead the country. But I'm concerned that he doesn't think that way, and I hope there's an adult in that White House.
There is an adult in the White House.
We
saw the president in his statement to the American people take dramatic and important steps. The reality is we have to do our part to stop the spread. You can't rely on the government for this.
Well, I think the government needs to send $1,000 to every American until this is over.
Of course,
to make sure that we keep our economy going. From the left, Domingo Garcia.
From the right, I'll take my $1,000, but that ain't the key. From the right, I'm Wade Emmert.
I'll take $1,000 too. Who wouldn't, right? There's politics in everything, and lots of it surrounding the coronavirus. How's this going to play out for President Trump? Good chance it could affect the 2020 election. That's part of the Roundtable in just a moment.
This is Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley.
Time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Abby and Bud are back, and Bernadine Steptoe, the political producer at WFAA in Dallas, is here each week. Abby, let's start with you and the politics of the coronavirus. How does all this play out for President Trump? Because if the economy is damaged, as an incumbent president, history has said that it doesn't really bode well for that individual going into November.
I think it's to be determined. He's been Teflon on so many things. This could be like in the rearview mirror, just like impeachment. But boy, if there are a lot of fatalities and the market is still swinging the way it is now in a few months, he could be in serious trouble.
That makes sense to me, Bud.
Look at the Republicans who are smart, who didn't call it a hoax. Look at Senator Cruz. We need to say Senator Cruz self-quarantined. Governor Abbott's taken it seriously. Dr. Hellis out at the state. People in Texas have taken it seriously. They're not joking.
Bernadine, on Friday, we heard the governor come out and declare a state disaster. He seems to be ahead of other states with Texas. How's all this going to play out here in the state as far as coronavirus goes?
Well, I think it's going to play out very well because, as the governor said, they have been on this for months. They were way ahead when President Trump was saying that it was a hoax. So I think Texas is going to be positioned very well. Now, as far as President Trump, when we start getting more and more fatalities, it's going to be even more of a crisis. But I think Texas is going to be very well positioned.
And Abby, President Trump came into office and he inherited a growing economy. He's done pretty well. He hasn't been tested. Isn't this really his first big test?
I mean, he's had a number. There was Hurricane Harvey and several other things, but he's been amazingly able to just shrug off of various crises of lower levels. But boy, this is something, I mean, at Capitol Hill, this feels like the financial crisis. This is serious, serious stuff.
Wow. Bud, you mentioned early on, too, that Governor Abbott really seemed to seize on this early, recognized how serious it could be.
And you hear all this saying, Texas Republicans will benefit, and you can see some of them already putting some distance between themselves and the White House to take this issue seriously and lead the state.
And Jason, and they're treating it as bipartisan. They're not treating this as a partisan issue, which is how it started initially in Washington. But you have the Democrats and the Republicans coming together because a lot of the mayors are Democrats. And they're coming together to ensure that the people in the state of Texas are being tested and very well taken care of.
All right, guys, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And thank you for watching as well. We'll see you again next Sunday here on Inside Texas Politics. Hope you have a good day.